Welcome everyone. My name is Heike Ritter and I will be your host for this webinar. Thanks for joining and thanks for being part of our community. A few reminders before we start. All of these webinars will be recorded and shared publicly afterwards on our community at aka.ms/security-webinars. During the webinar, please feel free to ask questions at any time by typing them in the live event Q&A window by clicking on Ask a Question. Questions you post might be made publicly available, and if you prefer, you can post your question anonymously by checking the box right below where you enter it. We often get many questions here, and we are doing our best to respond to all of them in real time. If the answer was not provided, if you have additional questions afterwards, or if you're listening to this after the fact as a recording, please don't hesitate to ask your questions on the Microsoft 365 Defender forum at aka.ms/m365dtc. Please also join our community there, so that's the best way for you to ensure that you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. So we love to hear your feedback and how we can improve these webinars as well. So after the webinar, after you leave, please do so at aka.ms/security-webinar feedback. I posted all those links in the announcement windows. So, and now today I'm excited to hand over to Bobish for the second episode of the monthly Threat Insights. Handing over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Heike. So hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening. Hope everyone is safe and healthy. Myself, Bhuveshwaran, part of Defender Threat Intelligence team for more than a year now, having a great time with this team. And also I have my team member Aishwarya with me. Hi, Aishwarya.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aishwarya. I've been with Microsoft for almost 2 years working with threat intelligence team. Happy to connect with you guys.
Thanks, Aishwarya. So today we are going to share our insights on our recent research work on Sysrv botnet. Cool. Let's straight away dive into the topic. So hope most of you are aware of what botnets are. So basically botnets are a network that are created with a piece of payload, specially developed to sneak into the user device, which would wait further for a command from its master. So how do they communicate with their master? That could be either via an IRC, an internet relay chat, so that the communication will be centralized, or if the adversary needs to have an decentralized communication, they could use a P2P for that, means peer-to-peer communication. Botnets primarily target internet connected devices, and when you take the payload, most of the bot payloads developed are like worms, because they look for specific vulnerable devices in the internet to exploit and infect them. So when we look at the early stages of botnet's evolution, the bot networks are leveraged for conducting different attacks like DDoS attacks, sending out spam emails, and many web app attacks. And even they are capable of bringing in their own malware payloads, sometimes even ransomwares, to infect the victim device. But in recent years, we observe that these botnets are highly used to mine cryptocurrencies in order to gain money, because it becomes one of the easier way to maximize the profit for the attacker. So by keeping these capabilities of botnets in mind, we felt that botnets should also be considered as one of the serious threats. And hence, as a researcher, we started tracking different botnets, and Sysrv is one of them. Let's start looking to the overview of this Sysrv and why do we focus on Sysrv, and we are discussing here. So basically, Sysrv bots are initially found in late 2020s, and they were using MineXMRs and F2P pools as their mining pools. And in recent days, we found a spike in their activity, and now they have started using nano pools as well. The interesting fact is that the Sysrv botnets are written in Go language, which is intended to target devices irrespective of the platforms. In other terms, we could also call it as like multi-platform threat. So in our research here, we found that this Sysrv botnet infected two different platforms, Windows as well as Linux. So during the infection, it follows two basic functions. One is to spread the infection by exploring and exploiting the available vulnerabilities in the network and create more bots into the network. And the other function is to mine for Monero minor cryptocurrency. So Sysrv bots, whatever we saw was like more optimistic. It looks for a bunch of vulnerabilities, both on Windows and Linux servers which are exposed, rather than looking for like specific vulnerabilities. And we found there are different unique attack chains while it exploits different vulnerabilities, and it gains persistence over the device. And anyway, we will go deep dive into the attack kill chain later. Now let's move forward to understand how these bots get into their initial foothold, how they get into the initial access. So in general, Sysrv bots gain the initial access to the device using different techniques, like brute forcing an internet exposed device, or by SQL injection, or by exploiting any RC vulnerabilities, or any few other application vulnerabilities as well. And as I said, like earlier, it's being more optimistic. It's targeting multiple vulnerabilities. In our telemetry research, we observed it's targeted these four major vulnerabilities. The first one is like Oracle WebLogic and JSON Web Service deserialization, and Tomcat and PostgreSQL. So once it gets the initial access, it leverages command shell interpreter techniques for executing their initial payload, like PowerShell scripts for Windows and shell scripts for Linux devices. So we'll see what all the scripts used when we discuss on kill chain. Interestingly, during this research, we found the infrastructure of Sysrv botnet has been overlapped with other crypto miners like Kinsing, which is a well-known in exploiting misconfigured Docker APIs, and that targets Ubuntu containers. And the next one is Zeto Miner, which recently you could see like it targeted RC vulnerabilities of Jenkins and Elasticsearch servers. So when we researched to know the stats of these servers exposed to internet, specifically hosting these applications, we got an interesting heat map. So this heat map shows us which all the number of servers that is exposed to internet hosting all these four specific applications. And we have leveraged Shodan to take the stats, and we could see that US and China are the topmost countries exposing their application, these specific application servers to internet. And only in US, we see almost 281,000 PostgreSQL servers are being exposed. We hope that these servers might have patched by now. So that's all. Like these all the high-level views on Sysrv. On next steps, like let's deep dive into the infection chain of Sysrv botnets. And for that, I would like to welcome Aishwarya, who is one of the primary researchers discovered this recent attack chains of Sysrv. Welcome, Aishwarya. So
thank you, Bhubesh.
Firstly, we love to hear from you that how these latest Sysrv bots infect and persist in Windows machines, and what kind of payloads it downloads in further stages.
Sure, definitely. The first example which I have is the infection of Windows chain using exploitation of Oracle WebLogic. This is a live kill chain which we have seen in our customers' telemetry and could identify the entire attack, and would love to share it with the audience here. So initial access of this attack, as discussed by Bhubesh previously, is via Oracle WebLogic Liferay. So they are using a JSON Web Service Tomcat 8 exploitation technique and then trying to propagate into the organizations. So as mentioned previously, Windows in Windows side, we have seen PowerShell being one of the important source from where the attacks actually is being initiated. So if you see after exploitation, there is a download of malicious PowerShell script, and this PowerShell script in the first thread, if you see, this PowerShell script is responsible for making the environment good enough for the attackers to perform their initial access and all the behaviors related to it. So first of all, as expected, this PowerShell script is responsible for making its maintaining its persistence into that particular impacted machines. So for that, they are utilizing schedulers. So using schedulers on execution of particular time intervals, these PowerShell scripts are being executed and making sure that they are persistent on the impacted organizations. After maintaining the persistence from miners, there can be a possibility that these miners may be using in common various miners other than the one which we are going to discuss today are using a common infrastructure or other sources which from which these attackers know that, okay, these are the possible miners that can be already existing on the impacted machines. And the basic agenda of mining is to make sure that it gets the entire CPU cycles of the impacted asset. So for that reasons, it is very important for disabling or killing all the malwares which are present on the machine and getting the entire CPU cycle. So for that reasons, using various names of the previously known miners, the schedulers associated with it, they are trying to kill it and make sure that they get the entire access of the CPU cycles. So in this particular kill chain, we have seen the dropping of IRC bot and an XMRig miner. So this IRC bot is actually a utilization of an IRC protocol, and it is a Python-based module. Since we know that Python is not a default module which is installed into any machine. So for that reason, along with the script, this particular bot also gets a Python setup to execute the bot script. And parallelly along with that, there is miner. So these two payloads are being executed. Miner would definitely try to connect to the pool domain and start mining so that they can earn Monero cryptocurrencies. And IRC bot would actually wait for getting commands from the server to perform the next stage activity. So it can be like recon to get additional information if at all there is an admin controller in the network that would help it in getting the access of the entire network, or it can be just dropping of the next stage payload, maybe a ransomware or any other malicious payload. So based on the commands received from the server, the IRC bot would perform accordingly. So this is first thread which we saw. I would really encourage everyone to drop your questions in the chat if at all anyone has any, or we'll dedicate some time at the end of the session for a Q&A if there is any questions from the audience angle. Then from this second thread which we have here, we have seen dropping of in HTA file prior to the PowerShell script. So this HTA file is turned out to be an intermediator for dropping the PowerShell script. And the persistence maintenance of this PowerShell script is done by squibbly-do technique. So this squibbly-do technique is a well-known technique which utilizes registry to make sure to execute COM scriptlets. And using this technique, it is possible to bypass the application control of that particular impacted machine. So it is a registry entry which downloads the payload and then try to execute it without by bypassing the application control. This is the basic agenda of the squibbly-do technique, and that has been utilized in the second kill chain. Followed with that, it is almost the same as the one with the first thread that we saw, the execution of PowerShell script, followed with deleting of existing miners and its schedulers, as we discussed previously at this stage, and downloading of the miners and execution of the miners to collect pool domains. I hope this is an interesting example for the audience to understand how the exploitation and the propagation of the Sysrv botnet has been done.
Yeah, thanks, Aishwarya. That's well explained, so hope everyone understands. So earlier we said, do we have any specific points to discuss here in this?
No, these are just the highlights of the kill chain which I explained, just the bullets to be discussed. So nothing specific that will be highlighted here.
Cool. So earlier we said like there are 4 different exploits, means the 4 different vulnerabilities are exploited. And here you have explained about the Oracle, Tomcat, and JSON one. But how about PostgreSQL? I guess we have observed a different kill chain on that as well.
Yes, definitely, Bhubesh. So the next example which I have with me is specific to the exploitation of PostgreSQL database. That is also an Windows infection kill chain which we have seen. But in this kill chain, there are a couple of additional points which are being observed. So as we know that exploitation of an SQL database is usually done by passing SQL queries to the parameters to the URLs, and using that the attackers get access to the database, and from the database they propagate into the server machines. That is a similar kind of behavior that we have seen here. And after exploitations, we have seen, as I mentioned, when PowerShell scripts have been the common part in all the kill chains. Here also we have seen a PowerShell script being dropped or downloaded from the related impacted server. So although we are discussing this in theoretical pattern, in coming slides, I would also explain how technically if anyone is interested, can query and identify in their products or in their impacted organizations if they have any impact specific to this particular behaviors that we are discussing. So that will be coming up in follow-up slides, and stay tuned. Then followed with the scripts, we have seen that there is a disabling of firewall behavior which is observed. So this is made sure to, since we know that firewall blocks various ports or specific IP ranges, using this, it is possible that the attackers won't reach to the basic intent which they have. So for that reasons, they are disabling the firewall to suppress, or if at all there is any discrepancies in it. Then followed with that, we have seen netstat.exe being utilized to check the miners trying to connect to various pool domains and stop those processes. So this is somewhat aligned to disabling of all the existing miners on the machine. So using this, they are making sure that they get the CPU cycles that they need on the machines. Then downloading of the miners, and this XMRig miners is trying to maintain persistence using the common technique of run entry in registry. So whenever user tries to log in, there is a reboot, using this run entry, it is made sure that the miner is executed again. Along with this, we have also seen an additional behavior of privilege escalation, and this privilege escalation is performed by the driver file of WinRing64. So this driver file is basically responsible for making read-write entries into the memories, as mentioned here, into the physical memories, into the registries, into the IO ports on the hosts. So that using that, if at all the attacker has the escalated privilege, they can execute additional payloads using escalated privileges, or perform any additional recon activity if needed, and get additional privileges and get additional accesses. So this is one of the example from PostgreSQL, and I hope this is interesting and kind of different from the previous kill chain that we discussed.
Yes, Aishwarya, I see like there are unique kill chains for each exploitation. Thanks for sharing that. So the next one is like one of the key feature of Sysrv is that it's a multi-platform threat. So we said we have found Sysrv bots targeting Linux platforms as well. So I feel everyone in the call would be more interested to know how Sysrv bots breaks in Unix platforms. So could you please share our findings on that?
Yes, definitely, Bhuvesh. So for that reason, I have the skill chain for which we have seen in our impacted customer telemetry specific to Linux platform. So in this skill chain, as discussed previously, there would be any of the exploitation technique as discussed by Bhuvesh previously, that one of them would be exploited, and followed with that in Windows, the way we have seen PowerShell script being common as in almost all the kill chains. Here from the Linux side, bash scripts are one of the initial source from where all the next stage activities are being performed. So in this particular script, we have seen adding the scripts into the cron jobs for maintaining persistence. So like scheduler seen in Windows, cron jobs in Linux helps in executing the particular scripts at particular intervals of time. So using that, the persistence is maintained. And yes, disabling of firewall, as discussed previously, is done to make sure that there isn't any issues while executing or performing any malicious intent. From the Linux side, we have also seen utilization of IP tables to block other cryptocurrency mining services. So using that, they make sure that the mining ranges or the services or the pool domain ranges which are there are being blocked, and if at all there is any existing mining services that cannot communicate to that particular pool domain, and then they remain blocked, and the CPU cycles are being spared for the newly dropped XMRig miner. Next, from the Linux side, we have seen that there is an installing of agent-based cloud security products. This is basically because we have seen that they are trying to enter into the Docker containers of the cloud. So basically, if the security products of the cloud are disabled, that won't stop it from entering into the Docker container and utilizing its CPU cycles for performing its next stage malicious intent. Along with that, yes, stopping of the miners is the common thing which we have seen in almost all the kill chains. So that is also performed in the Linux along with Windows, as we saw. Then stopping of AppArmor. So AppArmor is an application control kind of an service which is seen in a Linux, and stopping of AppArmor is not really recommended. And if at all it is being performed, that is really a malicious thing which is happening, and it shouldn't happen. But that is what is seen here. So using stop AppArmor, the attackers are making sure that the executables which they drop are not being blocked and can be executed properly. Then we have seen stopping of Docker containers. And which Docker containers? Basically, the script has some code which looks for utilizes PowerShell and checks for strings like miners or Monero. And using that, if at all the Docker contains those strings, using grep commands, those strings are being searched. And if at all it is being seen, then that particular Docker container is killed. So any existing mining Docker containers, if at all, they are being killed. And that helps in reducing the utilization of CPU cycles. Next, followed with that, we have seen downloads of Kinsing malware. So this is actually the final intent of this particular kill chain. And this Kinsing malware, final intent here in the kill chain, which we saw in the customer telemetry, is to drop the XMRig miner and perform the mining activities. So this is one of the interesting example which we saw from the Linux side, and I was really interested in sharing this with the audience. So hope this helps from the Linux side.
Yeah, Aishwarya, well said. Like, especially when we see pushing a IP table rule, also finding and stopping other miners across platform shows the intent of Sysrv to leverage the entire resources to mine. So cool. So do we have anything unique in this slide?
Yes. I wanted to highlight one additional point here is about the grep command, this particular command which is there. So this also is observed about this particular search for agent-based cloud services, such as for Alibaba cloud environment. Once the service is located, they are trying to uninstall it. So that is also one of an interesting thing which we have seen. And as per the impact that we have seen, China is one of an expected. Alibaba is mostly common utilized in China, and the impact, as per the impact, seeing such code in the script is not is expected, because from the China angle, these products are specific in those regions. So that aligns to the Shodan graph which you had shown previously.
Yeah. I guess we need tamper protection for all kind of service as well right now, I guess. Cool.
Yeah.
I see, like, we have covered both Windows and Linux angles of kill chains, and those are like bit good. So since it targets two different platforms, so how is the impact of Sysrv botnet around the world?
Yes, definitely. I have that in the next slide, which talks about the impact that we have seen from the customer angles that we have, and which kind of aligns to the Shodan data which you have collected about the exploitable versions of the applications that are present in the regions. So as we have seen in the previous graphs, US is the highly impacted region, followed with China and few of the European regions. So this is the expected impact of the Sysrv botnet, and not limited to that regions, but trying to spread around in the rest part of the world.
Cool. So by looking at this impact, like, and other unique findings at each stage, this question may arise, like, how do Microsoft Defender protect them against Sysrv botnet? And what would be our mitigation suggestions to our customers and everyone in the call?
Yes, from it is really important from us as a security angle to share the mitigations with our customers along with the entire kill chain story which is there. So from initial access angle, I would like to share that one of the important factor which always rises, make sure that whichever product you have installed on your machine, they are being patched and are and updated to the latest versions of the applications, and try to utilize the latest versions of all the applications that you have. So that is one of the important factor. Let it be LifeRay, let it be any Oracle product or any other product that you have. Make sure that they are patched and are the latest versions you are utilizing. Followed with that, specifically for LifeRay, we have seen that there is an exploitation of JSON web service. So make sure that you block access to this service to everyone, and only provide access to the guys who actually need it, who actually need the service and need them from the organization level of need. Rest can be blocked, because that is one of the best way to make sure that an unintended person cannot reach to that particular service, and we stay protected here.
So actually, I do see, like, sorry to interrupt. So I do see, like, there are a lot of actionable intelligence to act on, as like our other articles. So why can't we go into M365D Center and show everyone in the call? So how do we perform all these actions in the center? What do you think?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, I can do that. I will do one thing. We can go to our M365D portal, which we have, and we can hover. So this is the M365 Defender portal that we have, and I have logged in here with a demo account specifically created for this presentation. So using this demo account, if you see here, we have a lot of services in M365 Defender, and today we would be focusing on the threat analytics part of our talk. And from the discussion point, if you see, we as a team try to publish all the recent attacks or the interesting infections that we have seen impacting our customers in this particular threat analytics field. And you would find all the recently published or all the published reports here. So today we are specifically discussing the Sysrv botnet evolution. And if you see the rest of the part of this portal, the first one highlights about how many ransomware articles we have, how many phishing, vulnerability, or activity groups article we have, that those are aligned to the tags that are there here. And followed with that, this latest threat column specifies about the latest reports that we have published, and if at all those latest published reports have any alert in your organization, you would identify it by here. If green, it is resolved alerts, and if red, it is active alerts. And the next section is specific to the organizations. So here, from the reports that we have published, which are important to that particular organization or which are actually having impact, are highlighted here. So using this, you can identify. If you see in the second part of the admin rat, there are like almost 16 alerts, out of which one is not, it's still active and not resolved, and rest are being resolved. So that is one of an interesting thing which organizations really keep monitoring. Followed with that, I have opened the Sysrv botnet evolution here. So if you see in overview view, you can get the basic executive summary of this article and the related alerts in your organizations. So since this is a demo account, we won't expect any alerts in this particular field for this, but the organizations who have impact can definitely get the information about the alerts, the resolved one and the active one here. And the important part which is there is the mitigation details. So for this organization, the demo organization, we have like 21 misconfigured device in them. So what does that mean actually? So in this, what it highlights is the security configurations which are needed to be set up in the particular devices in that organization, or the vulnerabilities that needs to be patched in that particular organization. So if you see, for example, a turn on real-time protections. So every device is up to date, and there is no need for the admin to look onto this particular thing. But if at all there is a disable the local storage or password and credentials, there are like 21 devices having this enabled. So make sure that this is being disabled on the existing devices which are listed here. So using this, you are mitigating and making sure that you are not exposed to exposing your machines to the possible attacks that can happen. Followed with that, in analysis report, as discussed in the presentation, the content is almost like the one which we discussed in the presentation, the executive summary, followed with that the kill chain which we had seen in the presentation, and an example of an squibbly-do technique which talks about like what is the exact command line, or the by utilizing the registry entry and the DLL which is specific for this technique. So we have shared an example associated with it. This is the PostgreSQL exploitation technique that we discussed. Next is an example or a snippet of the PowerShell script, as we had seen that removing of the minors by service name, by scheduled tasks name, by inactive, by indicative of command in that arguments, in the command line arguments. So these are few of the snippets which highlights, like for example, MISA is the name of one of the scheduler which is created for the previously existing minor. If at all that is present, then please kill that, is the actual purpose of this particular script, the PowerShell script. And these are few of the snippet examples of it. Similarly, we have seen the Linux kill chain specific to it, the impact, and we were on the mitigations as discussed, and Bhubesh was really interested in knowing this on the per portal angle. So if you see from the mitigations angles in the initial access, I would also encourage, like from the previously seen kill chains, make sure that your Postgres database is also not accessible to everyone, and have the limitations or access to only the accounts and applications that you trust. Rest should be blocked, and if at all it is on an exposed to web, then make sure that it is isolated, the server machine is isolated from the rest of the network in an organization. So if at all an impact is being caused, that won't spread to further network in an organizations. Similarly, from Tomcat Security Manager, try to make sure that your existing miners, existing sandboxes in that particular manager have properly or configured sandboxes with different privileges, providing more granular control over their access to system resources and potentially preventing any breached application from allowing access to others. So these are one important things from the initial access angle, and how they can be mitigated or kept properly configured. Next, from mitigation angle of Windows, it is really important, not only for Windows, but also Linux. The first important thing remains with the firewall. So as we have seen that disabling of firewalls is observed in the kill chains. So make sure that your firewall is in place so that there isn't any malware download activity being happening or any C2 communication happening. So if you keep that in place and monitor the firewalls properly, that would be really helpful from preventing any further attacks. From the Windows angle, cloud delivery protection in Microsoft Defender antivirus is one of an important feature which is provided, and make sure that that is up to date, because as and when we see new threats, we work on them, we provide new detections on them, and those have been published out. So if you are updated, you would get the latest versions of the detection and you remain protected with the recent relevant threats that are being seen. Next is make sure that you have group policies in place. You turn off storage of credentials for network authentication. So that is really important, because if at all there is any recon being happening further, we have seen privilege escalations, we have seen IRC bot, then it can be possible that stealing of credentials can take place. So make sure that the group policies are in place. Next is we have also an interesting feature of attack surface reduction rules. So this actually is a feature which has generic rules and blocks various generous malicious activities. Like in this case, we can block executable files from running unless they meet the prevalence age or the trusted list criteria. So if at all any application is not signed, then this application attack surface reduction would block it from executing it, because that is not expected in an organizational environment. Whichever application you have, they should be signed and properly relevant with proper trusted license assigned to it. Followed with that, we have seen PowerShell scripts, but attackers usually come up with new techniques to make sure that their PowerShell scripts are not being detected. If at all it is in a proper layman language, antivirus products would detect it. So they try to obfuscate it, try to add additional junk material in it to avoid being detected by antivirus products. So execution of potentially PowerShell or any other scripts which is obfuscated is being blocked by this particular product. And those, if at all you go to this particular thing of access rule impact before deployment or security recommendations, there you can get the details about what are the security updates that are responsible for you, or what are the configuration changes that are needed in your particular environment. So here, if you see, like there is a software update needed in your organization, update this particular lab WinRAR version. So this would list not only the specific ones to your particular report that you're going, but all the existing ones which are applicable to your organizations. Maybe a configuration change or a software update change, whichever software it feels like it is not up to date and all on whichever exposed devices, you would get those details here. So please monitor that and make sure that you are up to date. So with this, similarly for Linux, as I mentioned, first and foremost one would be the making sure your firewall is in place, making sure and your antivirus products are up to date and properly updated to the latest versions. It is also important for an organization to make sure that if at all there is any incident response happening, then make sure you have proper incident response, maintained a forensic ready network with centralized event logging, dynamic analysis, and up-to-date asset inventory. So using this, if at all your organization is impacted, remediation can be done using the existing logs. The existing logs helps in identifying how exactly the malware entered into the organization. So these are few of the mitigations which I would suggest for this particular kill chains and should be followed for this particular attacks. And that's it from the mitigation side that I have.
Yeah, thanks, Aishwarya. So then I see the next sections on detections of AVs and EDRs is also there. So can we quickly go through that with keeping the time in concern?
Yes, definitely. So from the Detection angle, we list down all the applicable detections. So the detections from the Windows Defender antivirus angle, the endpoint protection angle, or all the detections that are applicable to the kill chains that we have seen, we've listed down here. And these are also linked to these reports. So if at all they are being alerted, you would also get an alert in the overview that you saw. So make sure you monitor those and keep the detections updated and remediate as soon as you see alerts. Similarly, from EDR side, we have listed all the possible, based on the behavioral angle, all the possible EDR alerts that are applicable. We have listed down here, so that the first one is specific to this particular report, but the next ones are the generic ones, but the expected alerts based on the kill change that we have. So monitor those alerts at your end and make sure that you are protected and don't have any infection happening in your organization.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Aishwarya. I guess if someone is in the call who are new to M365 Center, they might got an idea of how do we go into analytics and explore this. And let's quickly, I have one more question. Like when it comes to AHQs, assuming in the point of threat hunters view, so can we quickly go through and even show them how do we leverage M365 for hunting, leveraging these hunting queries?
Sure, definitely. As even I had promised previously while talking on the kill chains, that in the coming slides I would discuss about how from the technical angle the audience can identify and check the particular behavior, if at all they have impact of that behavior in their organization. So to start with, I'll start with the Windows techniques that we had seen. So initially we have seen Java being utilized for exploitation, and Java executing a PowerShell and downloading something is not an expected behavior. So we have tried to consolidate all this behavior in the query. And if you see, I just hovered on this advanced hunting portal. So you can see once you run the query, if at all there is any machine that is impacted, it would be listed down here. In our case, we don't have any machine being impacted, so it's not listed here. But if at all there are any machines, then you would get all the details of those: the file name, the folder name, the process name, the account name, and all the specific needed details, so that that would help you in remediating that particular machine and making sure that you get rid of the attack. So this is one of an example which we have. Followed with that, we have seen Tomcat 8 exploitation being happening. So here also what we have seen is Tomcat 8 as the parent process which tries to execute PowerShell. And this PowerShell we have also seen, as we have discussed, that schedulers and scheduler tasks have been disabled to make sure that the existing miners don't remain on the machine. So this is a combination of that technique that we have seen. And using this query, you can identify that. Followed with that, similarly for Oracle WebLogic, execution of PowerShell is not an expected behavior. So this query would help you in identifying if at all that particular behavior is seen in your organization and the impacted devices with this behavior. So this is also one of an interesting advanced hunting query which can be leveraged and helped in getting impacted devices. Similarly, for Linux also, as we know that Kinsing malware is one of an important threat that we have discussed here. So from the Linux angle, in this kill chain, we have seen that the downloading is usually happening using curl or wget. So the first query is an example or a combination of Kinsing malware being downloaded with using curl. So that would help you in identifying, like, if at all Kinsing is being downloaded in your organization on that particular machine, then that data would be highlighted using this query. Next is remote code execution on vulnerable server. So we have seen PHP CGI.exe being executed, and using that, you can see that the curl, a shell script is being dropped using wget or curl, and that combination is being checked here. Next example shows about AppArmor. As I previously told, AppArmor is a service which is kind of an application control. So if at all that is being stopped, that is not expected, that is not recommended. So that behavior we are trying to catch in this particular query, and this would help you in highlighting the machines that are having this particular behavior in it. So these are interesting, and I really enjoy working on this part of advanced hunting queries because we really get the live impact in the organization, if at all there are any. I hope our audience enjoyed this.
Yeah, even I do the same, because this would help them to proactively look for different stages of the kill chain, especially the advanced queries of Linux side. Yeah, so I guess we are almost on top of I see like we have indicators which will be anyway flagged by our defender, so our customers using defenders will be already protected. And I guess we have few MITREATT techniques as well. Cool, let's quickly hop into the presentation. Yeah, we could see if anything we missed or not.
Yes, definitely. As we discussed about the initial access mitigations, followed with what we have is the Windows mitigations, the attack surface reduction rule that we had gone into the portal and shown our audience about how they can get the details about the rules. Next, followed with that, the Linux mitigations, detections from EDR and EPP angle, and the advanced hunting queries. So followed with that, we also have list of indicators which are there. So these indicators are already linked to our report. So if at all you get an alert, then or if at all these indicators have been dropped into your organization, are being communicated, you would get alert to this particular TA. So these are important things. If at all anyone is interested in getting additional information, they can utilize these indicators and check if their organizations are being impacted. And yeah, followed with that, there is a list of MITREATT techniques which we have, and we usually share in our TA reports to make sure that the kill chains which we have discussed and the MITREATT techniques aligned to them are being listed. So if at all anyone is interested in knowing the additional technical aspects of those, then that would be this MITREATT techniques would help you in getting additional technical aspects and understanding that particular technique. So this is the list of the techniques that we have, and hope this would be helpful for you.
Yeah, that's really great. Thanks, Aishwarya, for the fantastic presentation, and hope everyone on the call also gained some knowledge on Sysrv Botnet. I guess we would love to hear your feedbacks to get more better on the next webinar series.
Thank you so much, both of you. That was another great episode of our monthly threat reports. I added a few links already in the announcement chat windows, but so I want to read them out as well. So some reminders before we are ending the call. Again, recordings and slides will be made available at aka.ms/security webinars. We have another additional webinar scheduled already. Our monthly threat insights is always on the third Wednesday of each month. So that means it's August 18 and September 15 so far. We have in July 28th a partner webinar series where the Oxford Computer Group will talk about Microsoft 365 security and end-to-end solution. And on July 29th, we have an introduction to Microsoft Defender Application Guard for Office. For details and registration, same link, aka.ms/security webinars. If we missed to answer questions, or if you have additional questions, go visit the Microsoft 365 Defender forum, aka.ms/m365dtc. Again, thank you for today's webinar series. Thank you to everyone who was on the call to help answer questions. And of course, most of all, I want to thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on those webinars. We all hope to see you next time. Goodbye.